Good morning, everybody. It's Bonita from Pennies to Dollars. I have Fluff here to make an appearance with all of his fans. As you can see, he's super thrilled about it. This is his grumpy face. He has it all the time, but he is super sweet. So thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really glad to do my second live with everyone. I did the last one. It was a little rough around the edges. I wasn't used to doing that. So I'm hoping that everyone will enjoy this one a little bit more. The topics that I put together for today are talking about what our plans are for this next spring. Winter went super fast for me this year because I was here in Texas, and it didn't really feel like winter the majority of the time. I have really enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and let him get down. But it's really been nice being down here in Texas. It was the fastest winter of my entire life, and I feel like I've started off the year on a really good foot this time because I haven't had to spend winter at home. Winter just drags in Kansas. Every time you think it's over, it comes back again, and then you think, oh, it's over. We've had the last frost, we've had the last cold spell, and then it's back again. So really glad that I didn't have to do that. My husband is still suffering through a little bit of that, a lot of 37-degree nights, and then 70 degrees during the day, and then back to 40 degrees during the day. So it's just all over the place. But I'm timing my going home at about the right time because it shows that the last frost is going to be the last week in April, which means I will be able to plant as soon as I get home. So I'm super excited about that. Some of the other things that I plan on doing this summer are, kind of some frugal stuff. I started making a list of some of the things I wanted to do, and I realized how many of them had frugal connotations. I have lists of homestead projects I want to do or learn. I have repurposing plans for some things. I have upkeep plans, repairing some things. I have dreams and plans that I want to think about for the next year. I plan on doing more of my hobbies, and I plan on working more on downsizing and decluttering. And I plan on visiting some of my kids. I have some kids in Maryland, some in North Carolina, some in the state of Kansas. So I plan on getting out and visiting some people there. So those are my plans over the next summer and the next fall season. What do you guys have planned this year? What do you have planned for this summer and this spring? Do you care to share any of that with me? See, Shelda says it's snowing today in Ottawa. Ottawa. Yeah, in Kansas. Oh, California. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know some of the mountain areas were planning on snow. I watched some people that are actually on YouTube up in the northern California mountains, and they were expecting some snow. Good morning, Brenda. Thanks for coming. Hi, Sage. Oh, cold and windy in Nashville. Yeah, we're still dealing with some of that winter weather blowing through. I know officially it says it's spring, but in Kansas, sometimes we'll get a week of spring, 2 weeks of spring. Same with fall. Maybe we'll get a week of fall, 2 weeks of fall. It's mainly summer and winter, in my opinion, in Kansas. There's very little of 4 seasons. Good morning, Mitty. Rain today in Florida. That sounds about right. No snow in North Carolina. That's good. That's where my oldest son lives, is in North Carolina. So that's where I plan on visiting later this year. Camping in the summer sun. I love that, Shelda. Great. summer here in the Philippines. You guys have a lot of summer there, don't you, Karen? I worked with some people that came from the Philippines in more than one job. Oh, thank you, Sage. I appreciate you being here and you guys taking the time to meet with me this morning. I am so flattered that you guys want to be on my videos or listen to my videos at any time, and then to take your time out of your day to spend with me for live videos. I mean, that is just so flattering. That is such a compliment. And I appreciate that. And I consider you guys friends. I have made so many close connections and friends with all of you guys on there. And I've just really enjoyed this. I never thought that YouTube would bring me so many friends. And I think that's helped maybe my retirement transition is I don't feel isolated because I have you guys to talk to. And that has just been so rewarding for me. Good morning, Barb. What part of North Carolina? We live in outside of Raleigh. He lives not too far from Charlotte. That's the nearest airport. So I think he's like maybe 30 minutes from Charlotte, something like that. Is Raleigh close to Charlotte? I'm not even sure. Thank you, Sage. Rainy in Maryland. My youngest boy is in Maryland. And that's another trip that I plan on taking. I went out to see him a couple of years ago, and he ended up with COVID after his visit from Christmas. He was sick for a really long time. He missed like a month of work. He was so sick. And so he used up like almost all of his vacation time and PTO and sick leave, all that. And so if I want to see him this year, I'm probably going to have to go to Maryland. And so I plan on doing that. Raleigh's 3 hours from Charlotte. Okay, thank you for letting me know that, Lee. Yeah, I'm not real versed on all the layout of North Carolina. I know he says he's about 3 hours from the ocean. So they do take day trips sometimes and go to the ocean. So does anyone else have any fun plans for this summer or this spring? I've made a huge list of things that I want to do. So that helps me get excited about going back home. I want to continue the momentum that I've started in retirement of having fun things to do, things I look forward to, things to keep me busy. I feel like when I was working, I used to always joke and say, I am just too busy to be at work today. I have things I want to do at home, and I never felt like I had time to do them. So now I just have these wish lists that I just keep making of all these things I want to do at home. And I get really excited about actually having the time to tackle some of those things. It's in the 20s this morning, but we're up to 31 and 72 by Friday. Yeah, that sounds like Kansas weather for sure. So I'm also looking forward to painting and, like I said, downsizing. In my mind, downsizing is like the step after decluttering, maybe, or maybe that just sounds better to me. So I'm going to be focusing on downsizing as a mental change versus decluttering. I feel like I have too much of some things that I just don't need to be keeping that much of when it's just my husband and myself. And that includes our next topic, stockpiling. And I've shared with you in some of my videos lately that I feel like we have more stock than we need. The kids don't visit that often. It's usually around holidays. I usually go see them versus them coming and seeing me. And so I plan on trying to cut back on some of that. We just have it's overflowed into having a small pantry, which I always had when the kids were there, to another small pantry cabinet in my office, which I would like for it to go away. It didn't used to be there. To several totes in the back bedroom. And at one point, I had the bedroom completely cleared out for company. And we had to move those totes when my son visited so that he could have the bedroom back. and I just don't need all this stuff. And some of it is things from when we closed our store that were good for multiple years. Uh, the lady that bought our store wanted to pick all her own products, so we clearanced out everything and then brought home the stuff that we'd had left over. So I've got some random things that'll last for years, like lime juice and, just some random things like that. But we do have back stock of some of that stuff. And so I want to get some of that used up and come up with some creative ways this summer to use some of that up so that I can get some of those totes out of there and maybe even look at getting rid of that extra pantry shelf. I feel like it's taking up more room than I want to allow in my house, and we just don't need it. I want to catch up here with the comments. Oh, thank you, Sage. I feel like I do spend quite a bit of time on YouTube, trying to come up with topics and stuff. I was so worried when I came down to Texas that I would have trouble with topics. And I talked to my husband about it. I said, it's a different environment, it's a different location. What am I going to talk about? But I've come up with so many things just through my own growth process of coming down here that I feel like it hasn't been as hard as I thought it would be. I like to be able to share with you guys some of the frugal things and free things and low cost things that I do around here. I hope you enjoy that. I have more of that coming up. There are so many things around here. You could be busy all the time. In fact, one of the people here at the 55 and over community said, if you're bored, it's your own fault because you have to work at being bored around here. They have this newspaper that comes out regularly called the Winter Texan, and in it is just every single day what there is to do all around the area. And there's so many things to do that you kind of have to pick and choose, or you don't have any time to yourself, because there is just tons of low cost and free things to do around here. Oh, Barb plans to go visit her daughter in Florida. Oh, I love Florida. We want to go back to the Keys so much. We had one of our most favorite vacations we ever had a few years ago after we sold our store to the Florida Keys and went to Key Largo. And we talk about it all the time, how we want to go back. And that would be in July. That'll be hot in Florida in July. Thank you, Chris. You like to go hiking. I do too. And you want to minimalize and declutter. Me too. I have made huge strides, and I'm thinking I'm maybe going on to my 5th year. My house is in pretty good shape. My outbuildings that I have are looking a lot better. I did end up with like 6 or 8 totes when my aunt passed away. And a lot of that is genealogy. So I just need to double check with my niece because she handles all of that. She thinks she's already scanned everything. And if she's gone through most of that and we already have electronic copies, I'm probably just going to get rid of it. I know it's so hard to get rid of things that people have left for you to keepsake like that. But I feel like if they've been scanned and they're electronic, then I have more of a release to let that go because they're just being stored and they're not being used for anything else. Continually decluttering. Yeah, if I ever get to the point where I get to that upkeep mode, that's what my goal is. But I'm still finding things that I just have too much of. Clothes. I'm excited to get home and go through my clothes. Being down here and living on such few things that I brought with me was such a great insight that I just don't need all of the clothes that I have at home. I have a lot of things that are my favorites. I pick them out. And like they say, you wear about 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. That is so true because I brought these few favorite items. And then when I go home, I can look through these things that I rarely ever wear or don't wear or keep as backup in case my favorite things are dirty, which never happens. And I'll just be able to quickly, easily go through that stuff and get rid of it now. I'm confident I can do that. And I feel like this has been so insightful for me of what I really need to get rid of in my closet. Okay. Um, oh, thank you, Sage. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I know a few of my videos haven't had great, um, viewership when it comes to, like, some of my trips to Mexico and things like that. I thought they would be a little bit more interesting for everybody, but I know if you're not in this area or you're not planning on traveling to this area, they might not be. But those were some of my most favorite videos to make. So I hope that you are enjoying some of the things that I'm showing you. I'm thinking about having a yard sale too when I get home, Barb. I live 7 miles from the closest town that is under 500 people. I've had yard sales out there before, but it's been years and years and years. You have to do a lot of advertising, you have to post flyers, and I always looked at it as anything I got rid of was that much I didn't have to haul off. And so I'm thinking about maybe trying it again this summer. I already have some totes of things I've been trying to sell upstairs, like on eBay or on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm thinking I could just, I have that stuff ready to go. I can just take it out, put it on tables, advertise, and see if I can get rid of some of that stuff that I already know I don't want. But I gave away a lot of things, and these were things that I thought were worth selling. And I think I already have all that ready to go. Why not just set up a yard sale and see if I can get rid of some of it? You scanned all your genealogy and mailed it all away. Yeah, that's how I feel. Genealogy wasn't my thing. My mom and my aunts on both sides were real big into that and did a ton of research, but I just don't need all that. And my niece actually has her own little genealogy company on the side as a hobby. So once, and she lives in California. So I had even talked to her about maybe loading it up, bringing it to California, letting her look through it. If it's things she already has, then I know I can go ahead and dispose of those things because she has them and she's like the keepsake person of our family, keeping track of all that. You live 6 miles from a small town, but it's more than 500. Yeah, I actually went to school in that town, K through 12, and our entire school, K through 12, was under 300 people. And you knew everybody. And of course, they bust us in from outside. That's how a town of under 500 has a school with under 300 kids. And so I always got bussed in from 7 miles away. I live close to where I did growing up. And sometimes, you'd ride, 20 minutes because you'd pick up kids along the way. And then partway through the route in the year, they would flip the routes. And you, instead of being the first person off, you'd be the last person off, even though they were driving really close to your house and you'd have to ride for like an hour on the bus. They weren't supposed to keep you on the bus more than an hour. But there were times I was on the bus more than an hour just to get home for 7 miles. I use my canner and make jam, apple pie filling, spaghetti sauce every summer. I plan on putting my photos in albums soon. That photos is a big thing. That takes so much time to go through photos. I did take a lot of the photo albums of all of my kids that I had done because some of the kids had 4 or 5 photo albums. And the ones that were done, I gave to them. Now, my youngest hasn't taken his yet, but my 5 older kids all have their albums, and just decluttering those and giving them to who they belong to was a huge thing for me to get that out of the house. And even though I've been down here, I've done a little bit of legwork. I've texted some of the kids and said, hey, I have this at home. Is this something you're going to want, or should I get rid of it but when I get home? And like one of my daughters, she got a working VHS machine. And I said, hey, I have these VHS movies. Do you want them? They were ones we had when you were a kid. And she said, I want them. I'm like, great. I can box those up and get rid of those when I get home. So I've done a little bit of legwork on a few things like that I know can go right out the door when I get home. And that is very exciting. So I also wanted to ask you guys, what items are you trying to stockpile right now? Are you allowing a certain amount of space for things that you have? Have you, has your space expanded like mine has? Or have you been able to keep it pretty well contained? I know through this inflation, there's been that instinct, I think, for all of us to grab things when they're on sale or a good price because we know inflation is not getting any better, and that our space just keeps growing if we have some extra funds to grab those things when we see them on sale. So, what does your stockpile look like right now? Is it bigger than you want it to be? Are you wanting to grow it some more? Is it taking up too much space? Do you have space for it? I'm really curious about how other people are doing their